Hi,
Hey,
everyone.
Andrew's Wiki.
What's so funny about that? Welcome to Spatula, your kitchenware review podcast. Do you have a favorite spatula, David Cato?
I have several actually.
Yeah, tell me
Mhm.
about it. I have a clear winner in my spatula world.
They're like they're like silicone, they're red, and I only use them with my eggs. I don't cook otherwise, really. I eat
Mm.
like eggs and lots of salads. That's like
Wait, you
my
don't cook?
not really.
What do? You order out or just eat eggs and
No,
salads all day?
I make salads, a lot of salads. I microwave a lot of stuff.
Microwave a lot of salads?
No, I'm cool with a cold salad.
All right, so is your spatula, like, the same on all sides, or is it, one side
No,
straight?
it's like there's like there's several of them and they're like I guess a kit. So they have some that are like the regular I can't fucking make shapes. But they have like kind of like a that's bad that does not look like that at all. But think of like my brain is not spatula-ing. It's like it's like a kind of like a boop kind of shape, kind of like a U shape. So
Mm,
there are a couple that are that, and then there are others that are just like kind of like you said, kind of like that,
uh-huh.
like flat on one side and then little
Can't have that. It's no good.
what?
It's not left-hander friendly, those ones that are flat on the one side and ones that are asymmetrical.
What are you doing with your spatulas that make it difficult to be left-handed?
Making eggs, making salads, microwaving salads. That's how I roll. That's why we click and start a podcast about spatulas, eggs, and salads.
That's exactly why we're here.
Mhm.
Anyway, I'm David Cato. I didn't get to say that yet.
Well, he's David Cato. Since David's brain isn't spatula-ing, we can shift gears and we could do our therapy code podcast.
Yeah. So, what are we talking about today? Dr.
We are
Grizz.
we're talking about as a therapist, what's the most effective way you've used a spatula?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, yeah, I thought so too. I don't know. What do you want to talk about? We could talk about. We threw some thoughts out. Everybody, we
Yeah,
prepped.
Ryan actually texted me some ideas, which was fun because I had something to think about, even though I didn't open the text until right before we started. What makes a good group is one. How do you make a good group? And I love talking about this. So why don't we start there?
All right,
What
that can
makes a
be our.
good group, Ryan?
Oh my God, you're doing the thing that I'm doing, that I do, which is asking questions. It's a terrible habit.
I'm happy to dive in because I actually talked about this in supervision today with one of my supervisees.
What kind of knowledge did you drop?
So when I was doing process groups, I was very structured and very, let's say, rigid with my process group because it helps create it.
I said I hate it and I hate it, but go ahead.
Well, because it creates a safe container, right? Because people come in and they can know what to expect and they can hopefully be in a place where they feel like things are going to be okay, right? That they're not going to have other people in group kind of giving them advice and telling them what they need to do. And so we got to kind of create the standards of group. And so I would always go
Sure.
over my group rules, which were an exhaustive list to the point where the group members would actually remember. And if there was someone new in the group, I would have somebody who'd been in the group tell the new person the rules. And sometimes they'd leave some out. And then I'd be like, and this, and that, and this. Just
You dumbass. You
a
forgot
lot of,
some.
yeah, no, not like that. Like,
Sit
yeah,
on the floor for the rest of the group. It's your punishment.
never shaming, never shaming. And it was funny because when I went from being a primary substance use therapist and shifted into being more of a trauma therapist, that changed a lot because you can be shaming if you're redirecting people firmly. And so one of the things I learned, I had this one patient, and we were doing feedback in very strict feedback format, and the person started to give advice, I believe, to another person in the group, and I stopped them and I was like, "Hey, just so you know, we're not going to be giving advice during the feedback format." Totally exploded. Total huge rupture. Was not willing to repair with me. And that was when I learned maybe this is too rigid because I'd never had anyone react like that before. And so it was a big, big thing. And I was like, I get to learn from them too, and know that if I have a rigid rule, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for everybody. I didn't really answer the what makes a good group question, but I started the discussion. So now you go.
But what are you okay? I mean, I think I'm comparatively looser, but I agree that making sure that the expectations of the group are clearly communicated is pretty essential. What are your group rules? Let's hear them.
So the big ones are don't touch anybody else, because sometimes what I
You
noticed is
touch
if you
yourself in David's groups. Everyone is expected to touch themselves and only themselves.
touch yourself only touch yourself.
The after hours version.
The therapy after midnight group. That's a good name for a podcast. Therapy after midnight. It's a good. But don't touch other people. What I found is that if somebody started crying or getting upset or having some emotion, somebody would run over and put their hand on their shoulder, and I'm like, we're not going to go touching people. First of all, we didn't ask for consent, and second of all, we're getting in the way of their feelings. So let's not do that. So that was a big one. Also, not judging anyone else's process. Like if somebody's dissociating, we don't redirect them or try to bring them back. If somebody's dissociating, let them dissociate. If you need to step out of the room, you can do so. Like just come back, with a reasonable time frame. And if you don't, then I have to call and make sure you're safe. So there's like big ones like that, but also no hate language, no discriminating against marginalized groups. Like there was just this like kind of social justicey kind of vibe, which was just kind of like, let's be here and be with each other in a safe way because we're a trauma group first and
Isn't it
foremost.
unfortunate that some of these things have to be said? Like it's both
I
awful. Like I feel like it distracts from the group to have to say it, but at the same time, if you have a group like you do where the membership is changing significantly from week to week, it makes a lot of sense to say it. Kind of have
I
to.
think yes and no, just because sometimes people come from backgrounds that they may not have, you know, learned certain things. Like, for
Well,
example,
right,
running over
right, right.
what?
No, I agree with you. I think it's unfortunate that we have to remind people how to be human beings as we
Sure,
start the
sure.
group.
Well, one thing I learned is like people who run over and put their hand on someone else because they have some feelings is often because they were expected to do that. Like they needed to be the consoler in their family or something like that. And so it's kind of like ways to let people know like there's certain things that we need in order to heal in the way we need to heal versus, hey, let's try to fix something that's not broken, right?
What about tissues?
So I used to have a no passing tissues rule. I felt like that was too punitive. That was like a very old, rule at the job, which was all the primary therapists were doing that. Like you don't pass tissues because it gets in the way of someone's emotions. I would say like if you need a tissue, and I'd have tissue boxes all around the room, right? So almost everyone in the room would be able to easily reach a tissue, right? If they needed one. Sometimes people don't want tissues when they're crying. I find that a lot. Sometimes people in my office now will like wipe their face when they're crying and be like, there's tissues there if you need them. And they're like, no, I'm good. And I'm like, okay, you don't have to use tissues. Just rub it all over your face and take your shirt. Like that's you. Like you can do whatever you want with your tears. It's fine.
So, no, you were just talking about rubbing snot and tears on your people's
Yeah.
faces.
That's a thing.
Anyway, I'll come back to adult world.
Hmm. Yeah, so that would be kinda it as far as, like, passing tissues. I think it was really more preference based of what people wanted or needed versus nobody ever gets past a tissue ever, right? Sometimes
Mm.
somebody might be like, "Oh my god, it felt no one had ever done something that nice for me before passing me a tissue, and that felt so good," right? Like, who knows what's gonna happen? And so it's hard to kind of, like, really direct that process. I don't think it's unsafe to pass someone a tissue like I was taught when I was learning how to be a therapist in the beginning, a group therapist in the beginning.
I feel like a lot of people have heard that tissue thing before. And
Chat,
I
what do
don't
y'all think? What do you think about passing tissues to people who are crying? Appropriate, not appropriate, rude, nice?
I'm fine with I think in a process group, you talk about what's happening in group. So if Johnny passes Sally some tissues, maybe it becomes appropriate to say, Johnny, tell me about what happened right there.
Mhm.
Sally was upset, passed her tissues. What the fuck, bro? No, I wouldn't go that.
That's a
Your facial expression. Good.
totally reasonable response. What the fuck, bro? Why you
No,
passing tissues, bitch?
yeah, I wouldn't say much about that. The touch thing, yeah, that's I don't know. It's back to that like I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily redirect somebody for minor touch, but I do think it could easily get out of hand too. And a lot of people have bad boundaries. So I could be sold on the no touch rule.
There was one person who somebody ran over and put their hand on their shoulder. I had to remind them. And the person who was crying was like, no, it's okay. And I'm like, what do I do? Like, they just gave consent at this point, but after the fact, and are they coddling them by providing consent now? And so my brain just kind of exploded and turned a little bit. And I'm like, I can't be like, no, don't do it after they said it was okay, but it comes down to like we need to make sure that there's safety, and sometimes people aren't able to say no, I don't like that, or once something's already happened and it's like it's too late now, right? And so that kind of becomes like I can't read their brains, I can't go into their minds and say actually you're lying by saying it's okay, right? I don't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are some of the group rules you would have that I haven't mentioned?
I think a lot of my group rules do boil down to be a good human. I think, yeah, number one is really just have patience and work to resolve what happens in group. Group is a place to get feedback, receive feedback. Group is a place for people to show you who you are and for you to give honest feedback. And in that environment, people will get their feelings hurt. They will get their feathers ruffled at times. And I think my ask for group is that you try to stay in here and work through it. And if
Mhm.
something happens, we take a moment, we take a little time out, and we say, all right, such and such just happened.
Mhm.
We're upset. We're going to slow things down and we're going to talk about A, what happened, and B, how we move forward. And I think to me, that's the big commitment for group. Like, don't walk out a group angry or don't storm out a group. That's not what we're here to do.
I do the same thing around rupture and repair and just say rupture and repair is a part of the healing process. It's part of recovery. And if there is a rupture, if you need a few moments, by all means, let yourself walk out, come back. We could talk about it when you're ready. Sometimes when something big happens in group and people get dysregulated, I'm like, you know what? Let's take a 5 minute break and come right back. Right. Let's allow ourselves, because that system will go into fight and or flight, and that flight may need to happen before they can land within their nervous system and their tolerance level and say, okay, I'm good. They might need to go for that walk to say, okay, I feel like I'm getting away. I feel like I'm getting to safety. My system's feeling better now. I can come back. Right. So I
Mm.
don't like to hinder like that process if that comes up. But I would do the same thing as you and encourage like if something becomes too much, please I do your best to try to stay in the room. But if you can't, I understand, and I encourage you to come back quickly. And it's something that we do in somatic experiencing trainings is we're like, if things get dysregulating, like let's get you regulated so you can come back to the space to be part of the.
Yeah. I think that's my big one, really.
Mhm.
Be open to feedback, be open to giving feedback, be open to redirection, be open to, just hearing and seeing what's going on.
How do you feel about feedback processes?
What do you mean?
Like, we have pretty specific feedback format. What did you hear? What did you see? How did you feel? Could you relate in any way? And that is the four. And you have to use I statements. I saw, I heard, I felt, I related. And if anybody strayed from that, like for example, instead of saying I heard, I saw, I felt, or I related, they say, I think you should. That would be something I'd be like, well, let's not give advice. Let's not tell people what they should be doing. Let's go back to what you heard, what you saw, how you felt. To be like, well, I related because I want you to. And I'm like, okay. It's like if we bring it back to ourselves, people would ask me, they're like, well, what's the point of doing it that way? And I would tell them, well, this is about your own experience. We're not trying to merge ourselves with their experience. We want to let you have your experience of whatever they share.
Yeah, I think in my mind, well, at least in a residential program like we work in, they're learning their dear man somewhere along the lines. I'm less likely to say this is how you should respond, and more likely to say what I'm hearing right now is a lot of problem solving. What I'm hearing right now is a lot of advice giving, and just see what the group wants to do with that. I think
Mhm.
it's basically the same. It's maybe a gentler redirection, or it's a let me call attention to what I see that I'd rather not have happening.
And that's how we're a little different because I like to have more control. I like to have more control over the environment to be like, because, very specific safety guidelines, right? That I had created in my head that may or may not be real. But it's like being able to say, providing advice could, and there'd be times when people would be like, you know what, that person gave me advice and it really upset me. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's open
Yeah.
that up.
Well, I do, yeah. I think again, like I don't know. In my mind, in some ways, I often think about like the ideal group, the perfect group. In a group where you're losing two or three members a week and gaining two or three new ones, it's. I don't think that it's bad to set that expectation at the start. This is a process group. This is what a process group is. This is how you interact, and this is how we ask you not to interact. So I don't think it's wrong to set the just explicitly set that expectation of like, hey, this isn't about advice giving, you
Did you
know.
like doing groups? Or do you like doing groups?
Like all things, I enjoy it in small doses and then I get really bored of it. I can enjoy a good psycho ed group if I have something that I'm really excited to teach. I can enjoy a good process group, but I mean, you know me, I can't do anything for that long before I'm just like, all right, on to the next thing.
I'm done. Moving on.
That was fun. Let's
Yeah.
go.
I was a primary therapist for over 6 years, and that was like 4 process groups a week, 4 two-hour process groups a week, anywhere between 0 and 4 to 5 hours of family group per week, depending on how many family members I'd have in my group for family week. I mean, I would be doing lots of group time, lots, and I loved it until I didn't love it anymore. I still like it, and it's still something that I love to do periodically, and I'd be happy to do periodically, but it became one of those things where it was just like, because what happened is I got promoted into management, and then every few months or so, I'd have to go back into a group for a month. And then I would close out that group, and then I'd be back in management for maybe another 6 months, and then I'd go back into group for like 3 months. I never really got the opportunity to like fully do management for those first few years in management. It was kind of like I was doing this ping pong back and forth primary and management piece just because of the way that numbers were and staffing were. And so I ended up like not liking it as much because it wasn't my main gig anymore. It kind of became more of a task than it was something enjoyable. There were times when I would have to go back into primary again, and I would just adore the people that were in my groups. Like it was just so nice to have like a good, strong group and the people in the group being so connected. And then there'd be times where it was like nobody wanted to be there, and it was like, well, that's hard. But it ebbs and flows, right? It all depends on who's in your group and what that's looking like.
Yeah, I think back when I used to run a ton of groups, yeah, I think it was frustrating when you get that person in the group who was disruptive. And I don't think that back then I had the skills to really successfully rescue the group from that kind of sabotage. I
Mhm.
feel like I could do it much better these days, but it's probably been a while since I've done a group.
Yeah. Is there a time when you had a group that really exploded?
But yeah,
Mm.
got some good ones. I don't even remember. I was filling in for somebody, and this was probably 5 or 6 years ago in a group, and the group turned into one guy who, not to be reductive, but kind of he was spouting some incel kinda language and theory, and then the two of the women in group were, of course, a bit offended and just wanted him, like, kicked out of group immediately. And I think it was one of my best groups ever because I was able to hold it together. There were the three of them were each trying to storm out of the room at various points. And I would say, stop, like, pause, time out. We're going to slow it down. Like, trust me. Usually as a facilitator, I'm much more passive. I'm one of the members of the group, but in this scenario or other scenarios, it's like, no, like now I'm in control and you need to slow down and we're going to stop and we're going to talk about what just happened and we're going to go one at a time right now. Like, normally I don't control a group like that at all, but it was like, we need to talk about what just happened because this guy said this thing. These people heard that, reacted, and continued to react. And then everything was going on. And then this guy said this, like, it's just like, what's happening? We have to keep on slowing it down. And I think it went really, really well after multiple times when the group almost collapsed. I think we were really able to get to a point where Mr. Incel was able to understand why he was being so provocative and why he was being so disruptive. He was able to get to a place of acknowledging to the group the vulnerability that was underneath. The other two were able to both hear that and experience that and kind of acknowledge their role in the dynamic that was happening. The other people in group were engaged and maintain and sort of were active, even though these three and their dynamic was really monopolizing group. Everybody else was actively giving feedback and participating. So that was a group that just really, really blew up. But I think I ended up at that point having the skill to save and make something really great out of that particular group.
Mhm. That's awesome. The one that comes to mind for me is a time when we had someone who shared something that was kind of perpetrative in group. And this was when I was doing primary substance use. So it's still like pretty much a baby therapist still. I wasn't independently licensed yet. And this person had shared something perpetrative that they had done. And the group was like, "What did you say?" And then they repeated it. And this group of mostly young, traumatized women lost it. They lost
Uh-huh.
it. Reasonably so, right? And they ended up, several people ran out of the room, and there were people in the bathroom that were hiding under the sink, and it was a thing. It was a very
Oh,
big thing. We had to get RTs to come help support people. I think back then, this was so long ago, like over 10 years ago. They were probably still called evening weekend counselors at the time before they transitioned them to RTs.
ooh, counselors? I was just thinking EW counselors. Ooh,
Yeah, you
counselors.
counselors, totally. What's so funny, nobody ever called them that. They missed a great
I
opportunity to
would
call
have.
them you counselors.
I'm all about the
It was
abbreviations.
E/W, so that may have thrown people off. But I was able to restore the group without that person there anymore. That person ended up, I don't even remember what happened, but maybe they were transferred out to another program due to what they shared and how it being so big. It was one of those things that reverberated out into the community very quickly. People breached confidentiality, and it was this whole thing. We were able to bring everyone else back into the group the next day and help kind of repair everything with the people who were still left. But it was very big, and I think it could have been an opportunity for this person to share that and be able to understand the behavior and understand like what had happened and how damaging it was. But that's one of those things that's really hard because it's like, do we just, you know, find another placement for somebody because they did something odd, or did something perpetrative, did something harmful? Does that make any sense? Am I making any sense?
Yeah. That's an interesting choice, though. I mean, if you are in a group full of young women and you decide to disclose something of that nature, like what was that all about anyway? And is that conducive to being in that environment? On top of like, did he sabotage intentionally or unintentionally his ability to be successful? But also like that's a bit no. It's weird that one would disclose something like that in
Yeah.
that particular context.
Mhm. Yeah, but it was a lot.
Something voyeuristic about it or exhibitionistic about that.
Mhm. It did feel provocative. It did feel like a provocative display, and I think
Uh,
that that's something that we see sometimes too, and we have to know that if we're going to be provocative, that we can be damaging.
yeah.
Yeah.
What
What
about
about
you? Different types of groups. Are you just a process group guy? Do you like doing psychoed or
I like doing psycho ed, but if I do psycho ed, I like lecturing.
yeah.
I prefer to be the star. And I mean, my psycho ed approach is you've seen me do psycho ed. No, you haven't really seen me do psycho ed. But psycho ed, I'm very interactive. Like I want people to give me stuff because I go in ready to present something, but it's going to change depending on the interactions with the group. Like, I'm not going to go in and speak word for word from a PowerPoint. I might have a PowerPoint as a guide, but I'm going to let the group lead me because they're going to bring up stuff, whether they're sharing things or asking questions or whatever, that are going to be things that they want to know that maybe I don't have prepared to share, that I have to come up with it on the spot, which I love that. I love being able to think through things too while I'm presenting. So,
I used to have this like experiential sort of activity based group that was like such a big hit and everybody loved it all the time. And then like just one guy, and I still remember this group, one guy was like, this is fucking stupid. This is exploitative. This is so gimmicky. And I was like so thrown off my game because I think he was right in a sense. It was sort of, it was just a good format for a group. It was like a lot of positive feedback. I don't really remember, but it really just prompted people to give each other a lot of positive feedback.
mhm.
And that threw me. Everybody
Mhm.
loved this group. And then one guy was like, fuck this. This is so stupid. And I think he walked out. I was like,
I remember
how could he? I run the best group. Yeah.
I was doing, I mean, fortunately at this point I was a very experienced lecturer, but I was doing a lecture at Canyon Ranch, and I was doing my lecture that I was doing every 2 weeks to pretty much a different crowd. There was one woman, she came like 6 times to my lecture, somebody who was at Canyon Ranch a lot and came to my lecture like 6 times. But there was one person in one of the lectures, he was like, I'm gonna say probably like my age-ish, a guy, and I was doing my thing and I was talking about attachment, and he was like, "Well, what does this have to do with the attachment theory?" And I was like, "What do you mean, the attachment theory?" It's like, Bowlby's theory of attachment. And I was like, well, that's not what I'm lecturing on today. I'm lecturing on the teachings of Diane Paul Heller and somatic experiencing and how we talk about the nervous system and the attachment system going together. Like, I'm not teaching Bowlby's attachment theory here. And he couldn't understand that I was talking about attachment, but in a different way than the ancient texts of attachment therapy. Right? It was like, this is what I'm doing. And he just like couldn't get that. And then he just was frustrated and was just like, okay, well, you keep doing it or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. And he stayed. And I was like, that's interesting. But it was so fascinating to me that he was just like, well, why aren't you teaching about Bowlby's attachment? I'm like, I don't even know if it's Bowlby. I'm just making up a name. Is it Bowlby? Am I right?
Yeah.
Yay, I did it. I was like, that's not what I learned. Like, that's not what I became an expert in. I'm an expert in this. Like, this is what I can tell you how to heal the attachment system with the nervous system from trauma. I don't know about all that. Like, I could read from a textbook what the theory says. That's not how I work. And it's so
Uh-huh.
funny. It's almost like I think of comedians who have hecklers, and it's like those people who just want to heckle you regardless of what you're going to do. And when you said that, that's what reminded me of that heckler I had at Canyon Ranch that one time.
There's a lot more hecklers and a lot more people that'll give like, bad reviews than there were even 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Seems like every time I give a presentation, there's more and more people like salty about something out there. It's interesting.
Do you
You know,
remember?
it's getting worse because I feel like I'm getting much better and better and better at my presentation style. But, it just seems like feedback is a lot harsher.
Do you remember when I got called to be that keynote speaker, and it was my first ever and last ever at this point keynote? And I was so triggered because I thought I did a great job because I was given a shit PowerPoint and topic to work with. I don't even remember what it was at this point. but I was given a shit topic.
Family something or other.
Yeah, I had a very minimal time to prepare for this, but I went in and I did my attachment thing. I edited it to, I was like, I'm going to tie this family work into attachment and somatic work because that's what I do best. And I gave a really good presentation, I thought. And the amount of people who commented, this shouldn't have been keynote, this should have been a breakout. This should have been a
Oh,
breakout. It was like, but I did get a lot of positive. Remember this, but those negative ones, it's like if we hear 99 positive things and one negative one, like we're going to focus on the negative. And I remember just being so bothered by that. This shouldn't have been a keynote. Well, fuck you, right? It's how
right.
I felt. But then there was this, and this was before the keynote. I think the keynote was the last big conference one I did. But before that, I did a presentation. I want to say it was in Florida. It was in Florida because I remember I was there with a couple people that I had to present with. That was a very interesting conference, not because of the conference, but because of people I was there with. Without saying names. But I did my presentation there and it went really, really well. And I got really good feedback. And there were a couple people that said, great job. This was really great. I learned a lot. But you say the word right a lot when you're presenting. It'd be
Mm.
like blah, 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 right? Right. And I didn't realize I ever did that. And it was good feedback for me to say, okay, this is something that I can take and say, all right, this is something I can use. But to tell someone this shouldn't have been a keynote, this should have been a breakout. Girl, I've done breakouts for 3 years at the same conference. I've earned my spot as keynote. Like,
Mm.
really? It was so annoying. So annoying. But I'm over it now. Probably not completely over
No,
it yet.
you're not over it.
But that's the thing is we have to not care. We have to
No,
not
yeah.
care what these people think because these people who are giving shitty reviews are the ones who are just already pissed in their own life. Like they're not
Yeah,
enjoying
it's
the
not about us, it's about them. I think the last conference I did, like, last year got, I guess, yeah, overwhelmingly good reviews, but I think three people who were like, this was all theory and no practical application, and I was like, "Well, first of all, I think the session description said that really specifically, and then I spend the first, like, 20 minutes of the presentation talking about how this is all theory, and then the last 20 minutes talking about how the whole presentation was all theory and it's sort of a call to action." So I was like, I kind of already told you that many, many times.
you
So
can
we gotta
never
dust our shoulders.
make everyone happy. And I
No.
remember I spoke at the alumni retreat a few years back. It was the last time I did, but I had people who, enjoyed it. But then there were a few people who said, I didn't enjoy it because he kept answering questions. I didn't enjoy it because he didn't finish the PowerPoint. I didn't
Yeah.
enjoy it because and I'm like, that's my style. I work off of, I mean, if I was a comedian, I would be a crowd work comedian because first of all, I can't come up, as you know, we can't come up with ideas like off the cuff, right? We have to work with what's given to us, or I know I do at least. But if I was a comedian, I'd be a crowd work comedian. I'm a crowd work presenter. Like I have the material I want to present, but I go off of what people give me because I don't want to teach the same thing. I get bored, and I think that's what
Mm.
happened. Is I felt like I had to keep being boring because that's what people were wanting, but I can't care about what people want. I have to care about what I want. Well,
Yeah.
this kind of took a turn going from groups to conferences.
Yeah. It did. It did.
There's 2 things that I always see at conferences, and that's the very eager new student, right? And the recovery bros. And those are always the recovery bros never go to any breakouts or any events. They just go and market their programs.
Every time I go to a conference, I'm like, I'm gonna be a good conference goer. I'm gonna be invested. I'm gonna network. I'm gonna meet people. I'm gonna pay attention. And I get there and I'm like, oh right. This is why I don't do any of those things. And then I go to the beach for a day or two.
I try and like I'll go through all of the different like groups and stuff and I'll be like, "Oh, this looks good. This looks good. This looks good." And then I'll go to one of those and I'm like, "This is so basic. Like this is like
Oh, basic.
therapy 101." I'm like, you have this listed as advanced. Like the stuff I offer is always advanced. But I'm like, you have this listed as advanced learning. This is like I learned this in my first year in graduate school, you know? Or I learned this when I was working on a bachelor's degree, taking intro to psychology.
I think you sort of, yeah, I think conferences are always geared at that intro level. Even like the really great presenters out there, like a Gabor Mate and whatever, like they're just speaking to that intro level. They just do it well. So that's frustrating for sure. And then, yeah, I don't know. I was going to say something else and now it escapes me. I just think conferences get very, very frustrating
Mhm.
because yeah, I don't feel like I'm necessarily learning a lot in a lot of these things. And I
My
feel like it's hard to like they get taken over by the marketing people, every single one. And then like there's not a good conference where intelligent therapists get together and talk intelligent therapy. And even the ones that have been promising just like rise up and then fade within a few years. I was even looking at like evolution of psychotherapy this coming year, and it's like there's a lot of presenters there that seem to compromise the brand a little bit. It's like
Mhm.
everything's so damn commercial. Where does a therapist go to meet other growth minded therapists, David?
Right here. It was interesting. I was talking to Allison, the ST trainer I coordinate with, and she went to a conference. I forget where it was, but she went to a conference recently, and it was really good. She said, like, it was
Yeah,
all very good. Up, I wish I could remember which one. Maybe it was one in Colorado, APA. I don't know. It was someone she went to. She was really impressed by a lot of what she saw, and I was like, I want to go to more conferences like that. I want to speak at conferences like that. I want to be able to like blow people's minds and stuff. So
right.
that's on the agenda for the future. So,
That would be cool. I'm just having trouble finding those conferences. I just feel like
mhm,
last evolution of psychotherapy was really great, but
yeah.
this lineup
Was
doesn't
that
look so.
last year?
I think they're every 2 years. So
Okay. It was one she attended like within the last like 6 months, I believe she went.
hmm.
Really, really good.
Who it is? Because I'd love to hear where all the action's at these days.
Yeah. The action.
What about you, dear listener? Where are you heading for your conference action?
And other action, whatever action you want to share with us.
Yeah, tell us about your action. It's so weird. I'm tired today.
I
I thought
love that it's like almost 9 p.m. now. It's like the later time. It is almost like therapy after dark at this point or after midnight.
I'm just gonna say dumber and dumber things and make more sex jokes as the night goes on.
That's exact the later we get, the more inappropriate Ryan is, and I think next time we should shoot for 11. I'm kidding, I will already be asleep.
I'm
Uh,
just gonna be here like making fart noises the whole time. That's right.
make a
That's
fart
right.
noise, Ryan.
I can't. It's not 11 yet.
What?
Yeah, I start at 11 every day. What do you wanna talk about next time?
You believe Ryan will make a fart noise? It's a little one.
I'm only not doing it because you seem really invested in this.
You're mean.
What do you wanna talk next time?
I don't know, you'll text me a few days before and tell me what we'll talk about. We
Yeah.
did have a couple other things on that list we didn't get to, which were here it is.
What is supervision, yada, yada. Are these boring? I don't know. People tell us if these are boring. I kind of miss the old like advice show format. Do you ever miss that? The old like looking up stuff on Reddit and responding to stuff, those posts.
We can play with whatever you want. It's our show. We can do whatever we want with it. But also, listener, chat, whatever they're calling it, chat now. By the way, chat. Tell us what you want to see. I really appreciate the one person who did give us the idea that we talked about a little bit last time, and we talked about more effectively this last episode that I'm going to post this weekend. So keep an eye out for that. But please tell us what you want to see. I know people are listening, so comment. Let us know what you wanna know. If you don't wanna comment, put your information out in the public, like message me or talk to me in person when you see me, because we are receptive to what y'all want to hear.
I'm not, unless it's a very public declaration. You can carve it on your forehead and shoot me a picture, and then I'll answer it. You look alarmed, David.
That's
You
not
don't think that
appropriate.
people should submit questions via body carving or
No,
tattooing,
no,
piercing? No. Okay.
no.
All right.
We're not
I
that
my
famous.
early
We're not that famous yet, Ryan. Wait till we get that famous, and then we can ask people to do that because they will.
You don't know if you are tattoo yourself for me famous until you ask people to tattoo yourself themselves for you.
If somebody gets a tattoo for one of us, I will be so upset with you. I'm not even kidding.
If you get a therapy code tattoo, I will give you like $15.
I thought you were gonna say a quarter. I'll give
I'm
you
a
a
generous.
quarter. I'll give you a quarter if you don't do it.
Well, $15 is more than a quarter. So there you have it.
Quarter is more affordable for me.
You got a tattoo of my face, I would probably pay for it if it wasn't too expensive. I would
So no
maybe
massive back piece, no entire back piece in your face.
you know what? If it's like really epic, yeah, the sky's the limit. You do whatever you want to do.
Down to the forehead wrinkles, right?
What would be in the background of a David Cato massive tattoo? Just you and then Link in the back.
Well, you know what comes to mind? It's you know those like these glamour shot portraits.
Yes.
One of those with like 3 of me like around it, but different poses with big 80s hair. Like that would be that that would be the way to go.
Can we do that? Can we have ChatGPT put the both of us into one picture with like a glamour shot vibe?
I think you should.
All right.
And send it to
Sounds
me.
like
We'll show it on the next episode. All right. Thank y'all for hanging out with us. This has been Therapy Code. I'm David Cato.
I'm Ryan Drzwicki.